First-person shooters, real-time strategy games, and MMOs have been the cookie-cutter recipe for online gaming since it first began. Staples of these genres such as Battlefield, Command & Conquer, and World of Warcraft have defined our expectations for online games today. But what if something came along and decided that it wasn't particularly content with the strict boundaries set by the industry and that it wanted to combine all three in an intricate blend? Well, that's precisely what Sony Online Entertainment has done with PlanetSide 2. The fast-paced action in first-person shooters has been combined with the cunning tactics of strategy games, each making the other more exciting and fulfilling. Best of all, the game is set in a huge MMO world, teeming with nearly 2,000 players in a never-ending and epic battle. Now, before you idly dismiss the game because you aren't particularly comfortable with all the genres being mixed, allow me to assure you that even if you are uncomfortable with one or all of the genres, the game is not overwhelming and is a great starting point for different gamers to broaden their horizons. For example, if you have experience with the hand-eye coordination of fast-paced first-person shooters, but you found yourself lost in the sea of tactics of traditional strategy games, PlanetSide will give you an opportunity to learn and grow as a team, working off the individual talents of each other. Speaking of teams, it's about time I get into what the game is really about. As you might have already guessed, the game takes place on an alien planet that happens to go by the name Roxas. The story is pretty much what you would expect. Humans tear the Earth apart through war, humans settle on a new planet, humans find the existence of ancient alien weaponry, yada yada yada. Although, I can't help but feel I've heard this story somewhere before.
So, you want to hear a story, huh? One about treasure hunters. Have I got a story for you?
Anyway, humans unsurprisingly end up getting all butthurt with each other and break up into three separate factions. These are the three factions in which you will choose between when entering the game. The first faction, the Terran Republic, are the strict dictator-like government that believes that the way to peace is control and order. This faction will grant you with the most advanced traditional military hardware, with their guns characterized by having high fire rates and low damage per bullet. The next faction, the New Conglomerate, is a group of ruffians and mercenaries who detached themselves from the main military because they felt oppressed by the Terran Republic. They provide their soldiers with extremely hard-hitting weaponry and have the downside of being slow and sluggish. The final faction, the Vanu Sovereignty, are a group of humans who have come to worship ancient alien technology profusely. They believe that the next evolution of human progress is dependent upon the adoption of alien technology. Unsurprisingly, because they think alien tech is just the cat's pajamas, they arm their troops with advanced alien laser guns and hover vehicles. The moral of this story, as I'm sure you've already surmised, is that the Terran Republic is the best faction ever, and all the other factions are a bunch of whiny babies and alien-obsessed hippies. Terran Republic for the win. Yeah, just kidding. But seriously, make sure that you choose your faction wisely, because once you align your character to a faction, there is no going back. Okay, to start things off, the first thing we'll go over is how the game plays. The gameplay of PlanetSide is very reminiscent of Battlefield 3, but the feel of the character movement and guns is more along the lines of Halo or Tribes Ascend. After you spawn in, you'll be given the choice of 6 different classes. The basic foot soldier, and generally the first line of attack, is the light assault unit. He's equipped with a carbine, pistol, and has the special ability of using a jetpack for a limited time. After the light assault unit goes in, we have the heavy assault. As their name suggests, they are slow, yet have increased health and firepower. Each is equipped with a light machine gun, rocket launcher, and has the special ability of equipping an overshield for a short time that absorbs some damage taken. These units are especially useful for taking down heavy artillery such as tanks and turrets with their rocket launcher, and for defending important places with their light machine gun. The first support class we have is the Infiltrator, which are especially useful for sniping from long distances and for, well, infiltrating bases. They're equipped with a sniper rifle, pistol, and have the special ability to cloak themselves to be able to sneak into buildings and capture control points to flank enemies to change the tide of a battle. Next we have the Combat Medic, which is a very important support unit for healing teammates and is essential to your squad's survival. He is equipped with a carbine, pistol, medigun, and has the ability to revive dead players from the field to full health. Although individual players can grab single-use medkits to heal themselves in battle, you'll find yourself short on them very quickly and will feel sorry if you don't bring a medic with you. The next unit is the Engineer, and much like the previous unit, they are important to your squad's survival but differ in the fact that they repair machines, not people. With their repair tool, they can heal tanks, ATVs, planes, turrets, and vehicle spawn stations. Additionally, they carry a carbine, pistol, ammo drop, and a portable shielded turret that can be placed to hold back encroaching infantry. The final unit, which is more of a class vehicle hybrid, is the Mechanized Assault Exosuit, or MAX for short. The MAX is a robo-suit that is heavily armed with Gatling guns and cannons on either arms for dealing ridiculously high amounts of carnage on the battlefield. They are effective versus infantry as well as artillery, but are better suited for defense because they are sluggish and make an easy target at any range. Just think the Heavy from TF2, except plated in metal, and no sandwiches.
Entire team is babies!
In order to keep this unit from being overpowered, the cost of resources to build them cannot be spammed because there is a cooldown restricting how often you can spawn them. The last piece of the puzzle for combat is vehicles. Vehicles in PlanetSide 2 are heavy-hitting, powerful pieces of weaponry that when used correctly can completely shift the tide of the battle. Vehicles are separated into 3 separate categories: troop transport, light assault, and heavy assault, with each of these having a land and air equivalent respectively. Different types of vehicles can be bought at their respective spawn pads throughout the map, with ATV stations being the most prominent and tank and jet pads being more scarce and sought after. Much like the Max suit, vehicles cost resources and have a cooldown inhibiting players from spawning them non-stop. Combat with tanks will feel very familiar to players accustomed to Battlefield 3, making you respect the power of your mount as you climb over hills and crush enemies with your cannon fire.
Does my machine gun even work?
However, I cannot say the same for the controls of jets and ATVs. Flying the jets in the current beta version of PlanetSide is stiff at best and downright rage-inducing at worst, and although control of the ATVs are notably better, they can sometimes start turning with a mind of their own, taking you over a steep cliff or directly into enemy fire. Finally, all classes, vehicles, and weapons in the game are customizable and upgradable. Upgrades can be earned through a system of earning XP from completing objectives and helping your team, or from a variety of different resources that can be acquired. Such upgrades range from buying new guns or attachments, upgrading the weaponry of vehicles, and upgrading skills of specific classes such as shield recharge rate and item capacity. I feel that the system of upgrades suits the game extremely well and makes you feel that you are earning something valuable and worthwhile. Best of all, you can choose to upgrade all of your classes and items equally, or invest heavily in a specific option that you favor, giving you a truly unique playstyle that you can call your own. I have personally upgraded several things, but put the majority of my points into the heavy assault class so that every time I play it, I feel confident and truly powerful embodying the soldier I created with my own skill and hard work. Okay, so now that we understand how fighting and combat works, it's finally time for us to go over the most important thing: what to actually do in the game. Remember how I mentioned earlier that there's those 3 factions always fighting with each other? Well, yeah, that's what you do in the game. The objective of the game is to capture the majority of the map from the 2 other factions, and then properly defend it when they get it back. Sound simple? Well, it's not. In order to give your faction the strategical assets it needs to be able to overwhelm the opposing armies, you have to start by capturing bases. Although it might seem intimidating, the mechanics for capturing bases are actually quite simple. Scattered around your selected bases are a series of control nodes, each labeled with a corresponding letter of the alphabet on your map and on the screen. Each node is captured by clearing out enemy forces and standing in close proximity while the enemy slowly loses control over it. Additionally, the more players you have capturing a node at a specific time, the faster it will become yours. Once a node has fallen under your control, the base will become yours and your ability to use its consoles and vehicle ports will be granted to you shortly. The first base you spawn in when starting the game is your faction's main base. There is only one per faction, and this serves as the most valuable base for organizing and spawning vehicles. Besides your main spawn room, there are 3 other kinds of bases on the map, each with their own special attributes and capabilities. The first of the 3, the Amp Station, is a large spread out facility with a plethora of small structures making it up. Although this base may seem like an unimportant cluster of buildings, the main building has a protected spawn room giving the defendants a distinct advantage. Whichever team owns an Amp Station will receive a bonus of reduced vehicle spawn times and enhanced turrets in a large radius surrounding it. The next 2 stations, the Biolab and Tech Facility, are characterized as being towering, highly defendable fortresses that require extreme coordination and tactics in order to capture. The Biolab can be easily recognized as a giant dome with almost the entirety of its surface covered in semi-permeable force shields that will allow the faction that owns it to pass through. Because of these shields, the only way an enemy force can penetrate its defenses is through the landing pads at the top, making aircraft an extremely valuable asset. Once a biolab is controlled by a certain side, the factions will be granted reduced spawn times as well as increased capture times at surrounding facilities. Next, the tech plant is characterized as being a giant fortress with massive outreaching metal legs and large open landing pads on the roof. Much like the biolab, the tech plant is surrounded by force shield that make ground level artillery ineffective, but does allow infantry access through upper levels of the plant.
They got a max on our base.
Both facilities' interiors are full of obstacles and cover, making combat occur at very close quarters once inside. Controlling a tech plant gives a faction the advantage of spawn points for heavy aircraft and land vehicles such as Liberators, Galaxies, and Sunderers. In addition to these main structures, smaller bases and strongholds are scattered throughout the map. They can contain any number of consoles and facilities, and although not as important as main bases, are necessary assets for properly mobilizing your army and attacking larger bases. With all of this said, the final and most important technique to achieve victory is to rely heavily on teamwork and cooperation. Because this game has so much strategy involved, a small force of organized and methodical soldiers can easily capture an objective with double or even triple their own manpower. Running as a lone gun in this game will rarely yield results, so whether you gather up as a group with your buddies in a Skype call and form a small squadron, or you join a huge squad with multiple platoons, follow this one simple rule: squad up. So, now you understand what the game is all about, but it's time to get down to the brass tacks. How well the developers implemented their ideas, and is the game really worth your time? PlanetSide 2 is by no means a small project. It combines a lot of ideas into a seemingly complicated and confusing mess. Despite reserves some players may have with the game, all of the genres and playstyles blend perfectly into a mixture that takes both first-person shooters and real-time strategy games to a whole new level. Having the ability to command a squad with a perfectly thought-out plan, and then actually being able to go out onto the battlefield to fight with those same tactics is one of the most rewarding experiences imaginable. As I sit back and watch all the tiles on a map gradually shift to that unmistakable color of my faction, I can't help but let a smirk of intense satisfaction work its way onto my face. Of course, the game is far from perfect, and trust me, it has its fair share of bugs and issues. Missing textures, graphical errors, wonky flight controls, and spazzy character models plague the game and can sometimes make it feel frustrating. But this can be forgiven as the game is still in its beta stages and the developers are very good at releasing bug fixes and tweaking mechanics in response to the community. Finally, the main concern I had with the game's free-to-play mechanic is that it would give a gross advantage to equipment bought with real money and would essentially make the game pay to win. Although, upon experimenting with the shop system, I've found that real money doesn't actually give players a significant advantage, and that most everything, excluding arbitrary items like aesthetics and short XP boosts, has to be earned instead of bought. It's so fair, in fact, that I worry that the game won't be lucrative enough to upkeep and pay developers. This is why I supported the team by buying the $40 alpha pack to keep the game alive. To say that PlanetSide 2 is ambitious would be a gross understatement, and it's obvious that Sony is taking a sizable risk in developing this game, treading into new waters teeming with uncertainty and skepticism. Despite it all, the game laughs in the face of adversity and comes out triumphantly.
I didn't get out.
In my time with
so-
PlanetSide 2, I have had the most fun and gratifying online experience in a long time, with many late hours being sucked into the addicting world of Aroxis. This game gets 2 thumbs up and is a definite recommendation to any gamer with an internet connection. You can apply for the free beta at planetside2.com, and although the game will be free to play at launch, I highly recommend spending the $39.99 and purchasing the Alpha Squad pack. Well gamers, that's about everything there is to say, so suit up, spawn in, and I'll see you on the flip side.